Hey guys, Shinlox here, back with a new mini rambling review. This is another Crab's Treasure. Well, hello, Manny. Are you coming up here? Okay. So another Crab's Treasure was released in 2024. It is on Steam and PSN, I think. Maybe Xbox. Possibly Switch. Yeah, it's on a bunch of platforms. Anyway, it's about 30 bucks. At the end of the day, if you don't watch anything else in the video, do I recommend it? No, unfortunately. Unfortunately not. We'll talk about this a little bit. I'll play a video here in a second, or this video. So it is basically a Souls-like with platforming, or a platformer with Souls-like combat. It's basically a hybrid of platformer and Souls-like, and it is also both an homage and a subversion of the tropes that are associated with the Souls games. Unfortunately, I would basically describe this game as, for me at least, less than the sum of its parts. And what I mean is, let's maximize this, I guess. You're the crab. It's kind of a neat premise. You're basically a hermit crab whose shell gets taken, and so you need to at least go through the game and try and get your shell back. But along the way, all this garbage that you find around you can use as your shell. So, is it going to skip to the next one or no? No, of course not. So the main difference for me, the reason I say it's a subversion of the Souls tropes, is because the gameplay itself is very Souls-like. However, it basically understands the Souls player, the constant dodging and the parry systems, and it basically puts a little bit of twist on them so that it kind of counteracts. Oh, Jesus Christ, I can't talk this morning. It kind of counteracts what you would normally do. For example, it encourages blocking because you're a crab instead of dodging. So, enemy winds up for an attack. As a person that's played some Souls games, instantly I dodge. They give you the tell, or they telegraph the attack, and I dodge. Problem is, they're used to that from Souls players, and so they wind up, you dodge, but there's a delay on that attack, right? So they wind up and they wait for a second, which is about how long it takes for your dodge to finish, and then they strike, and you get hit. And that gets really frustrating. Now, it's not always the case. We'll just keep playing this over and over, I guess, because it works. It's not always the case. You got to learn the enemies and the bosses, especially, learn their attacks, and that if you want to be able to dodge appropriately. The easier way is to just block. There's always shells littered around, and so you're expected that it'll break your shell, and you'll eventually just have to put a new one on in the heat of battle. Another thing is, at least with Souls games, there's a little bit of an input lag or input buffer. So, like, if you are in the middle of a dodge and you want to heal immediately afterwards, then towards the end of your dodge, you just hit the Estus Flask button or whatever, and you heal as soon as you're done with the animation. In this, you don't. You literally have to wait until the end of the animation. It won't register commands until you are done with the previous command. And so that really screwed me up many times. Now, that's not to say the game is bad. It's just something to be aware of going in. And I would recommend this game to either people that play a lot of Souls-likes, like Iron Pineapple, that's who I heard about this from, or people that are really interested in experiencing all sorts of different games and genres, because this is particularly unique. I honestly just didn't really have a lot of fun with it, and that's why I don't recommend it. But it is very unique. It's full of creativity. Um, I don't think I could say a lot of bad things about it. There's the gameplay, which the fact that it's not quite Souls. Do you want to come over here, Manny? He's sitting in the doorway looking at me. Um, it's not quite a Souls game, but it's also not quite a platformer, and yet at the same time, it's basically both. Um, for me, I think the big thing is I can't recommend this to people that aren't super into Souls likes because the story is just not there. It tries, it really does try. It's about a guy trying to get his shell back. um, the problem is it's sort of mishandled, which is strange because a lot of things in the game are so well done. They try and touch on all these different themes. They try and touch on, uh, you know, being a hermit, right? Hermit crab. He has to learn to find friends or learn the value of friendship and stuff. But he doesn't really. They just kind of, you get to the end and he's kind of like, and I learned this and I learned that, and I'm like, I didn't get that at all. Like it's all tell don't show when it should be show don't tell. They try and have themes of the oceans being polluted, which, I mean, it's terrible. There's even like loading screens that say you have microplastics in your blood right now, and it's like, yeah, that's awful. And maybe that's the most solid theme that's in the game, because you actually see the effects of the pollution. Like, it basically, it in Souls parlance, it hollows your enemies. Enemies get hollowed because of all the trash. They go crazy, they lose their minds. um so there's themes on like friendship. There's a theme on like overcoming your anger, dealing with anger that's not really handled appropriately. um there's the whole environmental message, which and even the story itself is not, it's not told well. That's, I guess, my problem with it, because at one point you beat basically the first boss, the first real boss, the guy on the sushi boat, and you someone shows up afterwards, and your character Krill, he's like, "Where were you? I could have used a hand during that fight." And I'm like, "Who is this person? We've never met before." And so I think they were probably near the entrance to the area, and I just didn't notice them. I was probably supposed to talk to them before going farther, but I didn't. So it's kind of like how the Souls games, the characters move around when you beat bosses. Yeah, I think I missed a bit of a story beat there, and the story proceeded as if I had met them. And I'm just like, okay. um, I guess my only other main complaint, so gameplay kind of, story, and story is the big thing for me, because oh, no, hang on. Not engagement, but sense of exploration. Because there's really, in Souls games, you find, you explore nooks and crannies, you find like new weapons, new armor, things like that. Here you don't. I'm not going to say there's no reason, because you find, the equivalent of heart containers, heart container pieces, but there's no real, it's just like number go up. There's no real new cool things to see necessarily when you explore all the crannies and stuff. It's but even that's not totally true. There are things to see from a design perspective, but it's not the reason, like the collecting stuff or the power fantasy that we usually associate with the exploration. The normal reasons to explore are just not there. Wow, my allergies are super kicking. So that The collision is wonky. There were times where I would they do a real good job with the design. You know, they try and make the environment seem like it's actually created by trash, like popsicle stick bridges and stuff. But the collision on things is bad, and so you end up. I ended up falling through the floor several times, or getting stuck inside walls or places I wasn't supposed to be. I played on PS5. It updated a few times while I was playing the game, so there is that. Um, but also, you know, you just shouldn't fall through things. I feel right. You shouldn't fall through the floor. And like I said, it crashed a couple times. Excuse me. So some minor problems, but the lack of drive for me, I think, was the biggest thing. Like I didn't really. If you love challenge, if you love, you know, well designed gauntlets of enemies and stuff, if that's the drive for you, then you'll love this game because it actually does a lot of things right. One of which is the design and the challenge. Every boss is different. Every boss uses requires a different strategy that you basically have to learn. There's enough variety that, like I said, I wasn't having fun, but I enjoyed seeing them. And something else I got to give the game props for is the assist mode. You can change the difficulty, which is nice. Because after about a third of the game, I was like, I don't want to play this anymore. And I forced myself to play to about the 2/3 mark. The pinball boss. And I was like, I'm so done. Because for me, like I said, I'm not one of those that enjoys overcoming challenges. I don't necessarily enjoy like fighting the boss over and over and over again until I learn their movements and then beating them and moving on. Like I don't. That doesn't do it for me. I need a reason to do it. You know, Krill getting his shell back. I'm like, I don't really care. You know, and that's basically it. Like I said, it's all tell don't show. Krill's like, I really want to get my shell back. I'm like, cool, buddy. I'm glad you feel that. I don't feel that way. Um, so, but the level design is fantastic. I felt like it was a good. It was there was always something new. The challenges were always different and felt fresh. Um, the environmental design was good. It looked like everything was indeed made out of trash, or you know these. It's almost like their society is almost like the cargo cult. Like the trash falls from above, and they're like, "Oh, trash from the heavens," you know. And they build their society based off of trash. Like you can see over here, there's a city made out of empty liquor bottles, and that's the fancy city. Other cities are made out of uh, like buckets that kids use to make sandcastles at the beach, stuff like that. Or there's like it's really neat. It's like the city out of liquor bottles is like the upper city, then the lower city is all made out of like cardboard boxes, which are like it's underwater, so they're all deteriorating. It's really neat. It's clever. The environmental design is really neat. You know, the character design, all that stuff, really fantastic. The um it just you look at it and it's like it makes sense. It's really clever. But I just wasn't engaged. That's my thing. The challenge, every boss is different, like I said. Every area feels different. Um there were, you know, I mentioned this before, but there's definitely homages to other games, Souls games. There's a boss where you're like, oh yeah, this is a boss like this, or this is an area that resembles this. Of course, there's the poison swamp, which you just saw right there. The problem is, since it's a platformer as well, there's a lot of infinite drops. So the poison swamp area does have ground, But everywhere else, that like the miasma thing would just be a bottomless pit. Um, in the poison swamp area, there's some areas where it's bottomless and some areas where there is a bottom. It's kind of hard to tell a lot of the time. And that kind of defeats the purpose, I think, but at least since the game is a platformer and it recognizes that there's bottomless pits, it doesn't insta kill you like Souls games do. It deducts a little bit of health and puts you back on the ledge that you fell off of, which is nice. Let's see what else. Graphics are good. Like I said, that's kind of the art direction. It's fantastic. Design, enemy design, world design, all that stuff is wonderful. Music is okay. Sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's but it's average. Average is okay to good. Story, not great. I appreciate that I would say the story is bad. They tried to go for all these things, and it's just kind of it's not told well, and it's kind of a muddy mess. You know, and anything else? Gameplay's fine. Like I said, it's subversive, but that's okay. You just have to. It screws with your muscle memory, but you'll just have to learn. You'll just have to learn it. That's all you got to do. That's basically it. Like I said, wouldn't recommend unless you really like Souls games or this. What I would say is this game. I probably should have said this at the beginning, but this game really has heart. This game is a flawed gem. This is one of those games that you could tell a lot of love and care was put into. They just didn't. It's just not as polished, or it's not as good as they want it to be. I see what they were going for, and I appreciate that, but I just didn't really have a lot of fun with it. And that's kind of, it's a shame because you could really tell there's a lot of creativity and heart put into this game. So if you like those style of games, or if you like Souls likes, I would recommend it. To anyone else, someone's like, oh, maybe I want to try a Souls game. Not this one. It's just, it doesn't have enough to pull you in, I would say. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for your time and attention. Hope you enjoyed this video, and hope you enjoy all my videos. Any questions, comments, concerns, good, bad, or different, let me hear them. I do read all of them. I do try and respond to all of them as well. Hope to see you guys next time. Till then, guys, take care.